The largemouth bass is one of the world's favorite game fish to catch. So if you're a beginner and just starting out, we're going to break down all the basics of bass fishing. Nothing but simple and easy tips to get you out on the water catching big mouth bass in no time.
Here are the top 7 essential bass tips you need.
Okay, tip 1, let's start off with the best times to catch bass. That being early morning just before dawn, in the half hour to hour before sunup, and then again at dusk, half hour to hour before the sun goes down. This is because bass are very sensitive to light, and they're much more aggressive feeding in lower light conditions. Tip 2, find the heavy cover and find the bass. Bass love heavy cover, like fallen trees, brush piles, wood docks, lily pads, and areas of heavy vegetation. This is because it not only keeps them cool and out of the sun's bright rays, but it provides them with an easy ambush spot for unsuspecting prey. Okay, tip 3, what do bass like to eat? Well, just about anything actually, but the home run baits to catch bass are always going to be live bait, like frogs, shad, minnows, night crawlers, live bluegill, and crawfish. There are literally thousands of soft imitation plastics for bass that will work, and we'll talk about those. They mimic live bait. But as a beginner, you can't go wrong feeding bass live critters. That's always the ticket to bass catching. Okay, tip 4, hooks. Once you find the bass and feed them what they want, you have to hook them and reel them in. So you always want to be using very sharp blood red hooks because red is the color of blood and mimics a wounded or dying bait fish and the gills of a swimming bait fish that they're chasing after. Red is also the color that bass see best. So using sharp blood red hooks will automatically up your chances of catching more bass every time. Okay, tip 5 is lures. We could actually spend hours talking about the endless options of the plethora of bass lures on the market, but we're going to stick to the basics. If you can't use live bait for bass like we talked about, the next best thing is to use crankbaits and jerkbaits like we're showing here that you can cast and retrieve or troll for bass when fishing in new lakes. You can cover much more ground until you find them. Always remember, though, with lure selection to match the hatch. That is, to select the color of lure that closely matches the color of the bait fish, crawfish, and forage in that lake. You can't just pick pretty colors that look nice to the human eye because they simply won't look natural to what the bass actually eat. Tip 6 is casting. To really up your chances of catching more bass every time, you've got to become a casting pro. You do that by practicing casting the rod you'll use over and over until you can precisely place your bait within 1 foot of your target. That's why we're showing Joe casting here over and over again so you get the hang of it. This is especially true for bass fishermen. You need to be able to throw your baits exactly where the bass are, under fallen trees, under and between docks, and into areas of heavy cover and vegetation like we talked about earlier. Just remember, you gotta fish where the fish are. So once you find them, you gotta put your lures right on top of them. Also, you'll hear about the 90-10 rule in bass fishing, and that means about 80 to 90% of the lake's bass are usually found only in about 10% of the water. That's because bass are always on the move, looking for cover, food, and cooler water that contains more oxygen. Okay, final tip 7, patience and care. Bass can actually be hard to catch, especially as a beginner, but it is a ton of fun once you figure it out and you'll learn how and where to find them and then catch them. I'll leave you with this thought. Bass fishing is the world's most favorite sport, but it does take patience and time to hone your skills. So just like with any sport or learning to play the guitar, stay committed, stay patient, and talk to as many other fishermen as you can. Ask them for any tips you can get along the way, and that will help you in your gaining of more knowledge. Also, handle bass with care when you do catch them, because their scales have a protective slime on them that protects them from bacteria and disease. So just make sure you get them back in the water easily and safely, just like you found them. Don't roll them around in the grass or the mud. Give them the best chance to survive and thrive with their slime. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.